Hi, Ritesh Gupta. How's it going? Thanks so much for coming on the Nerds of Culver today.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing really well, and congratulations on the film. Very
Thank
enjoyable. And I just have to tell you, it's going to be immediately apparent for anyone watching it just how meta this film is. So, what made you and the writers want to approach it that way?
That's such an interesting question. Well, first of all, I was lucky enough to get handed this script right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so the writers wrote a very meta sort of slasher film, but like on the first page, it wasn't completely apparent what was going on. It almost started as a trope. And the funny thing is, I almost threw the script away at page 10. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a girl running through a house and there's a guy dangling the keys and like, what's going, like, seen this, done that. And it was the moment where she's not dead that made me go, wait, what's going on? And you know what I love stories that are like, I say they're like onions, they have layers and you get to peel them away and you learn more and more. And so the meta just sort of like, it was something Patrick Young and Samantha Gurash, our incredible writers, came up with, and you know we just leaned into it and had a lot of fun with it.
Did it remind you of any other horror films that you particularly enjoyed or anything like that?
I mean, there's so many that have come out lately, but of course, like I'm a child of the Scream era. And like, you know, I remember seeing that movie in the movie theater, and I remember that movie making me feel like, you know, I'm old enough to know when it came out, and that movie just really made me feel something. And even though it was meta and it was very self-aware, you know, this movie has so many sort of like, I think there's so many films that are kind of in that vein of Scream, where they're self-aware. Cabin in the Woods, you know, is one that comes to mind, and so that, you know, it was, what I loved is that we were sort of like, we didn't take ourselves too seriously, but at moments there are very serious moments in this film, and I wanted it to have that nuance and that balance. So that was sort of like the biggest thing, you know, I had to balance, but like it just like to have an opportunity to kind of make a movie like this was just very rare.
Yeah, totally. And this film is also very much about the overall creative process as we see through our main character and struggles she's going through. So, what did you aim overall, without giving spoilers, what did you aim for the film to say about the creative process, whether that's in horror or not?
That's a phenomenal question that no one's asked me, and I'm actually really glad you asked me that, because like I sit down, and I'm sure you're very used to this and so many people who are listening are, whether we are the ones that have made our first feature, like I just made my first feature, or we're working on other smaller projects, all of us sit down at the computer and stare at a blank page, right? And you have to fill that thing with black and white ideas. And when I say black and white, just like you're typing on Final Draft, you're typing on Apple Notes, on Word, whatever it is, or you're writing down. And you know, we as society these days, especially given social media, especially given that pulpit to which to have a soapbox to go and give a diatribe about, we espouse what we think other people are going through or how their process is, but we actually don't know. And I don't know that the audience realize how daunting it is to have to, one, say what you want to say, but on the other hand, weigh what the audience wants you to say. And to be sort of like literally have those two things on either shoulder, and to be in, if they're in conflict with one another, to try to juggle those and balance those. I wanted that to come through to people to really understand how difficult and personal it is, and how just sort of like it's like a puzzle you're trying to solve, and at the same time it's torturing you, and it's the horror in the room. There's nothing scarier than audience expectations sometimes.
I mean, yeah, that's something that's very apparent in the film. And, we are in the midst of so many reboots, sequels, remakes, and audience expectation and nostalgia. Nostalgia, if we can just say
Yeah.
so, seems to be like a dangerous force, really.
Yes.
Like, especially, for frankly speaking, sometimes, unfortunately, threats get sent to creators. And I guess, like, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And if like audiences, I mean, not to, disavow like sincere critiques, but like the sense of ownership, the nostalgia, and how that all feeds into this. What are your thoughts on that?
It's the million dollar question, right? Especially in this day and age of, to your point, rebooting existing IP. And so when you're the creator, whether it's the writer, the director, the DP, or the actor, and you're coming on board, you're playing a character that's been lionized, or like you have a movie that just has this beloved franchise. It's like the more history, the bigger the baggage for the new person coming in and copy what was done before, right? You want to try to put a new spin on it. And most audiences want to see, like, hey, how are you going to take this thing and give it a spin, but still give us what we want? And so in this day and age of reboots, it is a daunting challenge. Like, and I've thought about that. I'm like, one of the beauties and the luxury for me was I got to create, it's almost like the movie Argo, where they're like, if I'm going to make a fake movie, it's going to be a fake hit. It's like, if I'm going to talk about a fake franchise, it's going to be a fake hit. But I got to like literally write a 10-page Bible of this movie that never existed, and this franchise that never existed, and the history and the lineage of this franchise and the movies that never existed, down to we made movie posters. And, that was a lot of fun then, to put a fake spin on something that never really happened, or it never existed, but to kind of create the world as if it did exist, so that the audience felt a relatable, tangible, that feels like it could be Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Scream, so many different franchises, and they could understand what it would feel like for somebody from the outside to come in and try to tell them how their franchise is supposed to be.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned those franchises, many of which have had like many sequels and I believe in some cases a remake. It's like the horror always goes on. There's literally not a let up because the audience like wants that so badly. So how do you think that affected your main character's approach to their own reinterpretation of the Red Mask?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's, that was what was so fun about getting this script, is that, Alina Green, our main character, the screenwriter, she was somebody whose career is on the rise. She's on the ascend, and there's no bigger compliment. And we see this in today's day and age, right? If you're this breakout indie direct filmmaker, writer, whatever it is, like, and all of a sudden the Avengers calls you, Marvel's calling you, like different, these big properties are like, cool, now like you've proven yourself there. How about you take a swing at this? And those, all of a sudden you go from like double A ball to like you're in the major leagues playing for the Dodgers or the Yankees. And for Alina, it's so much for me as a filmmaker. I looked at it like as somebody looking for validation, right? Like looking to prove herself and taking on this property. I think there's a legitimate question that I have an answer, but I'm not going to answer for the audience, like whether she truly wanted to take this on or not, or whether this was to prove to the world and to prove to herself that she could do this. And I think it's a daunting task for any creator, but like, I wanted that first person experience I wanted people to feel that process of like, we judge them all the time, right? Like, did Rian Johnson nail the new Star Wars? Is this new version of Scream like up to snuff with Wes Craven's originals? We've all had that judgment, but we've never sat beside the laptop or with a notepad and note cards. And so like, that's what I wanted it, to feel like.
Yeah, it's all about there's so much that goes into filmmaking and
So
audiences and frankly even us critics don't always acknowledge that. And whether a film is good or bad, no matter what, so much went into making it. And on that point, just out of curiosity, how long did it take y'all to film?
that's a great question. So principal photography was only 16 days. We shot it all in a single location in Topanga Canyon in Los Angeles, California. And it was interesting, we shot October 2024, right after the strikes, and it was like, look, a lot of people were chasing tax credits in states like Kentucky and North Carolina with amazing crews and all that. And, our producers, called me. We were going to go to Louisville, Kentucky. They're like, how would you like to shoot this in LA? We think it's, kind of even. And like, honestly, our friends here could, we want to employ people we know. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. And so we filmed it in 16 days. It was a sprint, one location. There is only one shot in the movie not on the location. It was one of the best properties, but it looked like you would never know we were in Los Angeles. Yeah, we just sort of like, we just went for it, did it, and super proud. And it's amazing what you can do with one location when you have a really good team, incredible production designer and director of photography, and you just like go, okay, like how do we make the most of this?
Yeah, and again, like you said, the single location of the house and all of the nooks and crannies, and I that must have been so much fun for the actors as well, right?
Yeah, it was, but I will say for the crew, it's like, oh my God, are we going to shoot this hallway again? Again? Isn't there another? We're like, there's not another hallway. We can't build a hallway. But yeah, no, it was an awesome challenge. But you know what it did, Swara, is like you take a weakness and you turn it into a strength. And what it did is like, even though we were limited in not having another location, we were able to move that much faster. Like we were able to move fast, go quickly. Like every night, camera wrap 15 minutes. We're up the next day because we're back. We're like going to the bedroom again. We're just going to shoot another scene in the bedroom, or we're going to go to that room across the hall. And so we were able to move very fast. The crew was fantastic. They were just in a rhythm, and it looks, the movie looks way bigger than it is.
Yeah, and it's a great film. Obviously not spoiling anything for the audience watching. No, but this was so great. Ritesh Gupta, congratulations on the film to you and all of the creative team, and can't wait for more people to see the film.
Awesome. Great meeting you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody watching The Red Mask. Enjoy it. I hope you have fun.
Awesome.
Professional artists and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me.